Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Blessed and Highly Sensitive. I'm so excited to be taking this time to have this conversation, to initiate this passion project, and really just creating a space for me to share so many different things about the highly sensitive experience. Um, I really want to take this episode specifically to explore the characteristics that define the highly sensitive person. And I know that there is this awareness around the heightened empathy, but I really want to talk about the deep processing, the sensitivity to stimuli and environments. So I encourage you to join me on this conversation as I share the Black experience of being a highly sensitive person and how to truly thrive as a HSP in the world that often feels so deeply overwhelming. So to begin, let's go back. I feel like a lot of the times when it comes to being a Black person in America specifically, but also being a highly sensitive person or empath or intuitive, or you just probably call yourself sensitive in general, I want to talk about where that comes from and what that is. So, the highly sensitive person, that specific term was created, or at least made popular. I would say that it was created and made popular by Dr. Aaron, which is Elaine Aaron, as a matter of fact. But essentially, what she was able to do was to truly go into the details of what really truly made a highly sensitive person highly sensitive. And I feel like that term in itself can get sort of misconstrued in so many different ways, specifically around the like negative connotation that sensitive has and how that translates and how it's expressed in the Black community. And so when we talk about Dr. Aaron's definition, this includes basically a highly sensitive person has a sensitive nervous system. Okay, we are aware of the subtleties in our surroundings. And it's easier for us to become overwhelmed in situations where where it's just a lot of stimulation. And I feel like the part about the sensitive nervous system is the key component to truly understanding your sensitive nature, understanding your sensitivity for your unique path, your unique life, and the lifestyle and ambitions that you may have as a person. And so I think about like my own personal journey and how over the years I've been able to better understand and advocate for my sensitive nature. And for me, it really took a lot of self-awareness. It took a lot of detaching from how I was told I was supposed to live and show up in the world to what really felt like ease for me. Like that's the thing. I feel like as for me at least, as a highly sensitive person, I have to follow ease. And so things that just come to me naturally, things that just allows me to exist in my own like area of genius. I don't have to do too much to communicate or to express whatever that skill set is. Like that is truly where I thrive. And so this is also like just to kind of segue into my personal experience. For so long I've created blogs, I've created podcasts over and over again, not really understanding exactly how to consistently maintain that passion, that gift, those ideas. And so this really took me into an introvertive space, or even just like introspective space of really figuring out like, why is it that when I'm starting something I get so burned out I can't even finish? Like, what is it about my energy makeup that makes me inconsistent in so many ways, that is just like natural? Like, how can I work around this? Because there's so many ideas that I have that I want to express and I want to share with the world, but they're so big and it's like it's only just me. And so that's where a lot of my journey began, is realizing how can I ask for help when I need it? How can I follow ease in my creation process? How can I create a lifestyle where I'm not consistently jumping and going and constantly on the go? Like when I think about my 20s, like, oh my God, Oh my God, thinking about my 20s, I was moving and doing and being and everywhere like all the time. And now in my 30s, and as I record this episode right now, like I am literally turning 32, right? Technically, I already feel 32, but I'm approaching my 32nd birthday. And I'm realizing, like, wow, like I have, over the last few years, I've really dedicated a lot of my time to cultivating and creating a life that feels peaceful, a life that feels it honors my value of freedom. And one big piece of that was going to therapy. Like therapy has been the saving grace of me understanding my mental processing and understanding how to advocate for myself in situations and in environments that don't serve me. And I think that is, like I said, that is the biggest piece, that is like our biggest responsibility as HSPs, is being able to advocate for ourselves and communicate our needs when we need them. Otherwise, we find ourselves in so many broken situations where we're getting quote unquote the short end of the stick, and we're not really able to wrap our minds around, let alone digest exactly what's going on around us. So I really encourage you, like, if you identify as an empath or a sensitive, or you recognize just like you don't really, you don't call yourself anything, you just know that you have these like sensory sensitivities. I encourage you to really join me in this journey. Like, truly join me in this journey of understanding self and really creating and cultivating a lifestyle that supports how you move throughout the world without feeling guilty for needing time of solitude, without feeling like you're neglecting others, without feeling shame around you, around the truth that you just can't be in overstimulating situations. You don't respond well. And if you do, it's kind of like we have these natural defense mechanisms that is unique to each of us, but we are allowed to experience life in so many different ways. We are able to respond to life in so many different ways. And so one of my most, I would say this is my favorite characteristic around being a highly sensitive person, is my ability to read the room. Okay. Like I can read the room so accurately. This is beyond astrology. This is beyond like all of the tools and systems that I've learned over the years in order to understand people and relationships to things. This is truly just an innate ability that I've always had ever since I was a little girl, and just being able to just read the fucking room. Okay. And I enjoy being able to respond accordingly, right? I feel like if I step into a room where I feel the negativity, I'm given a choice. I am given the choice of, do I stay or do I go? And 10 times out of 10, I'm a go. Because one thing that I can no longer do is put force myself to stay in environments that truly do not serve me on so many levels. Like, that is mental, spiritual, and like literally in the physical world. And it's interesting because I've literally watched my life completely change over the last 4 years, from the lifestyle that I used to live and I used to almost idolize, and I was so like proud that I was living it, like being an entrepreneur and like having freedom of time. I'm able to travel. I'm a talent manager. I have this like cool ass circle of friends. Like, I thought I was living in my truth and in my power in those moments. And while I was in so many ways, for the most part, like it wasn't a sound foundation. And I realized, after stepping away from literally all of that, after experiencing friendship breakups, after going through a identity crisis, after experiencing grief at a level that I had never experienced in my entire life. Like, I I'm recording this as a completely new person, and I realize how far I've come over the time, and how honoring my sensitivity has been the remaining consistent effort that I've been putting in on so many levels. And I am just like in awe at how I've created this like pocket of peace within such a chaotic world, and how I've reframed my mind and certain beliefs about myself, about the world that I live in, about the community, about my dreams, my goals, my ambitions, about being a wife, about motherhood. And when I truly want to step into that space, like there is literally, oh my God, let me tell you this right now, friend. There is no reason to rush, period. The more you rush, the more you are working against everything that's for you. And I feel like I'm a millennial, okay? So if you're listening to this, chances are you too. If you're not, hey, like, welcome to the space. I may sound like an old auntie, and that's okay. You may be a little bit older than me. And you may be like, wow, this girl is wise beyond her years. Trauma. Okay, like let's just let's just put it all on the table and be truly honest. But at the end of the day, like to be a highly sensitive person requires this responsibility for self. Okay, like that is the thing. And so many times we have been raised to believe, especially in the Black household, rather this is a two parent, a one parent, you're raised by a guardian, a grandma, whatever it is, in the Black household, to be sensitive is like you can't be sensitive, okay? Because the world is too hard for you to be sensitive, okay? The world is too hard for you to be crying all the time. The world is too hard for you to be sleep. Like there's so many like barriers that have been placed inside of our psyche, these beliefs that has been embedded in our brain and belief system, that it has literally stopped us and created this shame and fear around who we truly are as people. And while we are a small percentage of the population, like highly sensitive people make up about 20% of the population, while that may be the truth, we are running shit, okay? And I'm not gonna let nobody try to make it seem like being a highly sensitive person is a weak thing. It's a weakness. It's not. It's such a strength that's going to be able to really make sense once you get around like 40. You know what I'm saying? Like once you get around like 40 years old, like I'm not going to even consider myself an expert at any means. And I have been doing this for what feels like forever. And studying this and like reading studies and books and literally observing myself in relation to the world and the world that I've created. Like I've really been on my shit in terms of making sure that I know, like, not necessarily that I know what I'm talking about, but like, I want to make sure that I'm not tripping, basically. Like, that's why I started studying certain things like psychology and astrology and really focusing on like the symbolism around everything and etymology. Like, everything was created with intention, okay? And that's one thing that we have to recognize. And as highly sensitive people, we can interpret the real shit and we can read between the lines. And like I said, reading a room is something that is innate to us, to be able, it's a survival skill. And for some of us, we may have been born with it. For others, our sensitive nature may have gotten more sensitive as we gotten older because of the things that we've experienced in our lives, that our nervous system really had a hard time processing and digesting. And so that has created a lot of like neurological patterns that has like really it really just determines how you make action and how you operate in your day-to-day life. And when they say, okay, when they say that 95% of our physical world was created by our subconscious mind, friend, when I tell you that as a highly sensitive person, that is 100,000% true, is that we must really recognize, like, once you understand your nervous system and what makes it tick and what triggers it and how to manage those triggers, then you step into this world of management, right? Like you go from awareness to the space of understanding and like just taking note of certain things. You may or may not, react to the triggers. Most of the time you react and then you go back and reflect and like, oh, okay, I could have did X, Y, and Z instead of how I actually responded. All of that becomes the information that allows you to manage your life once you really start to understand the certain cycles that you go through. And that is the piece of learning how to create a lifestyle of fulfillment instead of feeling like, oh, because I'm an empath, I can't be in social environments because that's going to overstimulate me. If that's the truth, live in it. But if you are naturally an extrovert, because let me clear something up as well. Just because you're highly sensitive doesn't mean that you're an introvert. Okay? And just because you're introvert, typically, and studies will say, okay, that there is a small percentage of people who are introverts and not highly sensitive. But for the most part, if you are an introvert, typically you have a certain sensory sensitivity that pulls you into that very reclusive type of space. Now, as a extrovert or maybe an ambivert, like, and you're highly sensitive, this allows you to be social, but you also have to know when to retreat. Okay, this sounds like or looks like going to a family event. Yeah, go to that family barbecue. Yeah, go to that networking event that your job put on or that your friend put on. Yes, go to that mixer and meet with other business owners, but recognize that there is a time limit at which you must go, so that way you can pour into yourself, so that way you can recharge and replenish all that you've pretty much done in that time of meeting and mingling. Yes, go get that 9 to 5 job, but just understand that the work you need to do to prepare for that, to prepare for your day, and the work that you have to do to prepare for bed or your nighttime routine or your decompression process, like, there is, we got work. Okay, and that is why we can no longer be selfish or ashamed. I'm sorry, we can no longer be ashamed for being selfish. Okay, because this is selfish girl season. Okay, you're a highly sensitive friend, this is selfish girl season. This is a season for us to operate in a space where, hey, listen, yeah, I'm gonna come, I'm gonna visit, yeah, I'm gonna show up, but I'm leaving at this time. Oh, you should stay longer. Oh, you should do. When I set my boundary, that is not a cue for anybody else to negotiate with me whether or not I'm that's flexible. When I stay my boundary, it is what it is. So if I say I'm showing up and I'm leaving at a certain time, don't try to guilt trip me into staying longer. Like, don't try to do that, because it's just not gonna go over well. You're gonna feel very upset that I still left and you did all of that. No, I don't even want you to go through that. So it's this is something that I literally had to even explain to my own family, because it's like, I love my family down, okay? Like, love them to pieces, okay? However, when we all get together, all of our energies, I feel all of that, okay? And it's like, it's truly, I have a hangover after it, because it's like being drunk. It's like being intoxicated. And it's not necessarily a, I'm not going to say that I hate it, because I have fun with my family. I love being around my family. Like, all we do is laugh, crack jokes, we play games, like, it's fun. But even in that same truth, on the other side of that is, I have an energetic responsibility to recognize when I am full, and when it's time for me to go and separate and process all that I have experienced on a physical and an auric level, and also just recognizing that it is fun to be around family, and it's okay, like, sometimes we don't get along with our families, and we are also highly sensitive, and in these scenarios, most of the time, we almost feel glued to them, we almost feel stuck with them, they almost feel like they're always in our space. But it's like, you also know that you need that time to retreat, so give yourself a routine where you're outside of the house, where you're at the park, you go for go see some nature somewhere, like, go truly ground in nature, go to the river, go to the museum, like, go somewhere that's slow and that's just calm and peaceful, and that will allow yourself to just, like, center into your own energy, and you can just engage. I'm sorry, you're not even engage and interact, but you can just, like, be with your environment, right? Like, be with that oneness of calm, right? Be with that energy of love, of self-love, for giving yourself this opportunity to just unplug. That is okay. That's also, even in the reality of social media, if you feel like being on social media is too much, that's okay. Like, that's one thing that I also struggle with when it came to entrepreneurship, is I felt like it was this, like, deep responsibility to show up online all the time, and I don't have that. Okay, like, I truly just want to be able to sit back and do my life, and then show up when I like, not necessarily when I feel like it, but when I feel called to, like, and that could be the same thing, where it's like, where I feel called to, where I feel like, let me just, I have, like, it's not even I have this message. It's like, I want to connect, right? That's been the thing. Because before, when I first started this journey of, like, showing up online, especially showing up online, maybe in an intuitive spiritual space for Black women specifically, I realized that it was like, oh, I have to have this message in order to go live, or I have to have this download. Like, it has to be valuable as substance. It got to be this deep thing, when it's like, no, I just want to connect. Like, I'm in the days now where it's like, I just want to connect. I just want to talk about the things that I'm interested in. And I just want to share my insight and share my experience and ask my questions and connect with people. That's all I want to do. And I think that having that intention and this wave of creation and putting things out there, I feel like that's where I'm going to find that stability, right? That's where I'm going to find that balance of honoring my sensitive nature, and also being able to create in a space of freedom. I think being able to podcast was always the vision for me. Like, I've launched a podcast. I'm telling y'all, like, it's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. I when I first joined Threads, I was talking about how I've created so many podcasts so many times, and how I just never really felt like it resonated after a while because it felt so niche. And I feel like our life is not about niche. Like, our life is not this one singular experience. Neither is like business, neither is like entrepreneurship, neither is life, okay? Like, neither is spirituality. It's never this one linear thing. It's a web. It's layered. It's so many different pathways and experience and ties that makes the thing, right? And so when I decided to rebrand as Blessed and Highly Sensitive, it was me writing a ebook that I really wanted to create like a guide. And I did. I created this guide of all, it shares a lot about my personal experience, but also like the tools and resources that I've used to really understand myself, to really understand myself in comparison to my relationship, myself in comparison to work, myself in comparison to my dreams and goals, my energy levels and how they fluctuate throughout the week, throughout the days. Um, Throughout the year, just how I'm constantly on this journey of shifting and changing and transmuting and transformation. Like, I don't know, like, I felt kind of dizzy because I'm like, damn it, I'm always in something, and not in a negative space, but just like I'm always experiencing and it's something in my internal world. I'm always transmuting a negative thought. I'm always like releasing something. Like, I just feel like I was just consistently working. I'm like, there has to be an easier way to heal my nervous system without feeling like it's homework or it's this like work vibe. And through therapy, I've been able to redefine what healing actually means to me, because I feel like every day we're on this journey of healing, regardless of what it could be healing, some like healing our wound, our stomach, it's healing itself regularly based off what we eat. Our Like, a thought that I had literally just yesterday is, no matter, like, while we are doing and living life, our nails are growing. While we are living life, our hair is growing. While we are living life, like, we are literally growing in the moment. Like, right now as I speak to you, like, my hair is growing right now, my nails are growing right now. I think that clicked for me yesterday, and I was like, that is like, continue to follow the natural shit. Like, continue to follow this part of our life that is just simple and like, just super simplistic. Okay, there's nothing there's nothing too much about it. It's just like, dang, that's happening naturally. I don't even gotta think about it. Like, right now as we talk, grass is growing. Like, the trees are growing. Like, there's things growing right now. Fruit, vegetables, like, shit is just growing everywhere. And we don't got nothing to do with it. It's just happening. And I'm like, wow, there, like, that simple thought put into perspective that regardless of what I'm doing to quote unquote heal, I'm healing without even having to think about it, without even having to do much of anything. The awareness around changing my habits, changing my thought processes, reframing my beliefs, like, all of that is just the work that triggers a new neural path. And that new neural path must continue to be worked in order to strengthen and become a new natural, just automatic pattern, automatic thought, automatic habit. Once we nurture that neural process, that neural pathway, that new one, like, neuroplasticity is such a amazing thing to read about and study. Like, I fell in love with the out like my own brain specifically about like a year ago, when I just realized, like, I don't know, I just realized the like uniqueness of my own brain. And this started from when I was rebuilding my relationship with money, and the way that I would say certain words, and like, for example, the concept of saving money, to me visually in my brain, and this is my neurospicy, it's very visual. And when I think of the word saving, I literally see like my money unalived. Like, while that may seem so dramatic, that is literally how my life feels, is where like I feel like, and when I think about saving money, my money is in danger. I need to put it away. Like, I gotta, like, it's the way that it makes my nervous system feel. I don't like it. And so, duh, if I don't like the way saving money, the idea of saving money feels, I'm not gonna save any money, because it's gonna trigger my nervous system when I tell myself, you need to save this money. Is my money dying? Does my money need CPR? Is it like, what's happening where I need to save my money? Now, I was talking to my therapist about this, and I was like, I had to use another word that felt better, that made me feel like when I think about storing money, in my head I'm visualizing literally a warehouse full of boxes of money. Okay, like literally, I'm seeing a warehouse full of boxes of money, and like there's forklifts, and it's like beep, 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 like everything is everything is in everything is in its place. And so I realized that at that point, okay, the key to changing my belief system, the key to reframing how I see things and experience the world, is through how I define stuff and how those definitions make my body feel. Because when it comes to this manifestation thing, lifestyle, and you're creating your world and you're shifting realities and all these things, at the end of the day, when you actually do the work, it is in re reflecting on how you've been raised, reflecting on the beliefs and the systems that have been taught to you in order to create this like survival routine, basically. Like, this is how you've been getting through the day to day. But as a highly sensitive person, like, we got to take it a step further. We got to think about, okay, yeah, we may do all of these things, or we have to hit all of these marks within our life, but at the end of the day, it definitely requires us to get a little bit more intentional, right? Like, we can't just be like, oh yeah, we're gonna wake up at 5 a.m. every day. Okay, you're gonna wake up at 5 a.m. and do what? Like, how are you actually nurturing your mind? How are you nurturing your body? How are you nurturing your spirit? And how are you preparing yourself and armoring yourself when you go out into this overwhelming world? And so when you're in the process or in the journey of understanding your sensitive nature, you're going through the journey of learning yourself from a more authentic perspective, through a viewpoint of, this is who I am without my mask, this is who I am without my defense mechanisms, this is who I am without me people pleasing. This is who I am at the core of it. And if you think, okay, like, one thing that I've also realized too, once I started operating from a space of just like authentically living um in my sensitive world, basically, like making the world work for me, it was when I realized, like, I can't put myself in situations and or environments, or even have conversations that I know is going to drain me. If I know I'm going to get off this conversation and I'm going to be like, woo, like, I'm not trying to feel that. Like, I'm not trying to deal with that. And that's not because I'm a bad person. That's not because I am, selfish or self-centered. That is because I feel everything. And when people are coming to me for advice, when people are coming to me, whether this is friends or family, and they're looking for insight, like, I can feel what they're feeling. I can see what they're telling me. There's like a full body experience that I'm having when someone is sharing something with me. And so this is why I have to be very careful with how I just show up in the world. Like, especially as an HR professional, like, that just adds a whole nother area of work, because I have to make sure at the end of the week I'm cleansing myself. I'm engaging with so many different type of people, where I'm literally constantly in a situation for 9 hours out the day. I'm absorbing energy. And so when I come home, I'm exhausted, I'm tired. And so I have to have certain routines in place in order to replenish myself. Otherwise, I'm going to consistently be depleted, which leads to sickness and illness, disease, and all these other things that don't nobody want to deal with. Okay. Like that is expensive. To be sickly is expensive. Like, to be sickly is expensive, and I would much rather live a life of freedom where I'm able to get up and run and go and do and experience at my own rate and pace without feeling rushed, without feeling like I have to keep up with anybody. Like this is not that. Like this is not that. And so as you go on your journey of understanding your sensitivity, it's like first take the step to step back. Like that's the first step, is stepping back. Look at your world, look at your view, or look at your world from a point of view of like Ariel, like what is the big picture here? And how does that align with what you actually want to do in your life? And the things that don't align with your goals, your visions, and your ambitions, get into that. Get into what's keeping you from resisting the decisions that you need to make in order to move forward. Like this, and this is consistent work. This isn't just like, oh, I'm going to identify this thing and then I'm going to do the work to change it. I'm going to, like, you got to really understand how to move past your mental limitations. Like when you tell your body no, when you have a goal, if your goal is to do movement, whether that's yoga, working out, or anything, like if you're giving that to yourself as a goal, you have to think about it. Okay, well, what is my energy like the most optimal, right? When is my energy the most optimal for this task? Is going to the gym a good thing to do for you at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, in the middle of your day? Like, where can you go to reset? Like, where in your energetic flow of the day do you have the capacity to do certain things? And so this is what I wish about like corporate world, especially with me re-entering it after 6 years of working for myself. I realized, like, damn, I wish, I really truly wish that there was a space or there was an opportunity for me to just work on my flow, work with my flow. I'm not in a space where I have to rush or do things. And working in HR is like sometimes you gotta move quick, right? Sometimes you're working with people, so it's a consistent management of those people, and so you're always in this correspondence. You're circling back. You're doing all this stuff. You're managing all these tasks. You're doing all these things. You're working with all these people. And so coming home is like, you know what? I need to center myself. I need to disconnect. I need to become one with me again. And then I can show up as a wife, a dog mom, a sister, friend, cousin, daughter, whatever. Like I can do all those other things because I've taken the time to give to myself. And personally, that's why I always use the early part of the morning. Like I don't have to be to work until a very reasonable time. However, I wake up 3 to 4 hours earlier than I actually have to be at work just because I need that time. I need that time to experience me and not anybody else. And so it's quiet. I can hear the crickets chirping in the middle in the morning, the birds be chirping, like it just be a lot of just natural music that I get to listen to and kind of like vibe out to. I get to journal, I get to stretch and yoga and work out and do all these things and just connect with my own body. And that's really key for understanding the sensitive like preparation. Like how do you prepare you for your day? And then once you take that step back and you see, okay, this is what my life requires, this is what is required of me in order to have energy, or I'm able to show up anywhere else in my life, then you can, like I said, zero in on these specific parts, right? Don't try to work on everything and fix everything all at the same time because, baby, that's not going to work, okay? You need to really just like zero in on the things that matter most in that moment. It could be finances for some people, it could be your relationship for others, it could be profession, it could be wellness. Like there's a whole life chart that you can work with to really understand like what parts is meant, like what parts need your attention, versus the parts that are kind of more self-sufficient, right? And this is personally why I love to study astrology, because I mean, honestly, it goes hand in hand. It's like, it's so interesting how Eastern concepts and teachings, and then there's like the westernized version, and it's like, Y'all know that's the same thing, right? It's just the Western version got a lot of like technical, very English like terms. Um, Whereas the more Eastern culture is, it definitely be sounding like spells sometimes, some of these words would be saying. But at the end of the day, it's really about recognizing what tools do you need, what environments work for you, what what like support system is required for your sensitivity. Do you need to have a friend on call to be able to just like engage with, to connect with, to bounce ideas off of? Like, do you need that, like whoever that person is for you, have that person? If you need solitude where you have to be with yourself, make it intentional. Take a bath after work or when you start your day. Go all out, make it a full thing. Make it a full ritual in a way that you really truly, you're serving yourself, like you're serving your body, you're preparing it for the day. I know a lot of people really get into their prayer bag in the mornings or just throughout the day as they need to, their meditations, and just really unplugging, disconnecting. I personally love to read books as a way to unplug from my world and honestly, into my psyche, into my mind. But the book is the guide. But at the end of the day, we all have our thing. And so once you realize what your tools are, and you know when to implement those tools and how they actually serve you when you need them, that is when the spiritual journey and the personal development journey integrates in such a beautiful way of living. It becomes a true lifestyle. It's not this, oh, I'm healing, I've got to do this shadow work, I gotta da 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 da. It becomes a active practice, and I think that is the part that people kind of like overshadow or even try to like make it seem like you got to work real hard to get there. It's not the case. Like, you really just got to take this shit one day at a time. And when you allow yourself to take it one day at a time, and you're recognizing like, okay, well, loud places that have a lot of people, whatever your spicy is, allow that sensitivity to guide you to your truth. Like, that should let you know a lot about yourself and what you need and how you need to get through those spaces should you have to be there for responsibility of any sake. And knowing enough is enough. And knowing you need to take that step back again and review everything and circle back to stuff and revise things and honestly focus on something completely different than what you've been obsessing over about yourself for months. Like, sometimes we need that pivot, just to allow that part of our life to become more self-sustainable, and self-sufficient. And I think once we become aware of that flow, and then we allow that flow to evolve over time, we'll begin to see those manifestations that we've been praying for, creating vision boards for, and everything in between. And then that is when you'll begin to really truly like live in your truth, and then you can help others, because that's what this is all about. At the end of the day, that is what this is all about. And so instead of me waiting until I've done everything and then coming back and tell y'all, I'd rather just share the journey with you. So that is why I created this space. And so thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you for tuning in to episode 1. Episode 2 will be back next week. So make sure you tune into next week's episode. But I appreciate you. I encourage you to start that journey or jump back on that journey or keep on with the journey of building and living and advocating for the highly sensitive lifestyle, because it is necessary, especially as we're moving into the world that is being undone. There's a new world being built, and so I think we have a really big role in that part. There's a lot more people going through a lot of recognizing that they do have their own personal sensitivities, and so there's work to be done, but we gotta take care of us first. So thanks so much. Have a good one.